welcome back to the United Pubcast for your latest instalment in a chat involving everything Manchester United. A lot to discuss today, Larry. News is breaking left, right, and centre. Probably no sort of official news. We're still waiting for the Rasmus Hojlund announcement, but sort of reports are breaking in one or two areas, and a lot of areas that we do need sort of to highlight, and some more important than others. But how are you, mate? And I'm looking at the date now. We're in August. It is creeping up to Premier League football and the return of the Premier League, which is what we're here for. But some of the news is sort of, as the title suggests, sort of going to bring us back to reality of the situation. That there is the excitement, but there is also news that is draining that excitement, I should say.
Yeah, Tom, it's very exciting. I'm pumped. The season proper is less than 2 weeks away. I mean, you got to be excited for that. Obviously, we got 2 games in between. I'll be really keen to see how United approach both games, because we got Lens and then we got Athletic Bilbao in less than 24 hours. So will Eric Ten Hag, which side will be the first team side? You have to think that'll probably be like the Wrexham Real Madrid situation, but we'll see which one ends up being the first team squad, because we obviously have no idea. But I'm pumped. Obviously, like you said, there's lots of news, and I think there's more drama to come before the season kicks off. And we'll get into why in a second, but I'm pumped for the football. It's always about the football for me. And transfers, news, ownership, none of this is exciting without the 90 minutes on the football pitch. And ultimately, preseason's been great. I want the season proper. It's about winning trophies. Bring on Wolves.
Yeah, definitely. Well, in no time, we will be doing a Wolves preview and a Wolves review. It's the kickoff here in Sydney is a Tuesday morning. So a nice 5 o'clock Tuesday morning to kick off the season for us. But as I said, a lot of topics today. We'll touch on the Mason Greenwood situation and potential developments around that. Jonny Evans in regards to a potential 1-year contract sort of potentially on the table, whether we believe that or not. That'll be interesting. And obviously, the Glazers, I think we might as well start there. So if you're in the chat, let us know everything you want us to discuss. Put it in the chat, and we'll get to you as soon as possible. But Larry, before we get into the Glazers discussion and the potential, you mentioned Wolves. I'm sure there's going to be a Wolves protest. You are sporting a nice bit of fashion, and what an episode to be doing it on when we're going to be here criticising the Glazers. Here you are in the brand spanking new Adidas shirt, but I do know that it isn't from the Megastore. It is, can I say fake? Is that the word, or is that counterfeit? Well, what's the word we use?
I really don't care. I mean, I'm secure enough as a person. You can call it fake. You can call it counterfeit. You can call it Asian made. I'm really not bothered. And look, I don't buy from the Megastore, and I don't buy from the Megastore intentionally. And as you can see, the quality is great. It's the quality is no less. I've bought from the Megastore before. The quality is no less. Honestly, there are some good websites out there where you can get high quality counterfeit shirts. I mean, at the end of the day, which factory makes it doesn't really make it fake or real to me. It's about the emblem on the heart, and that's what I support at the end of the day. I don't support the Glazers. I support Manchester United Football Club.
Oh, yeah, look, the last couple of shirts I bought from Manchester United, not the new ones, but sort of bought some old school ones. Off a similar website sort of thing where I pick them up for $5 or $10, and they look just as good, potentially, if not better, in regards to what Adidas sometimes dish up. But George reminded us here, in regards to Adidas, Larry, to sign a new deal, potentially close to $1 billion almost. I'm just thinking, just your thoughts in regards to that in terms of, was that always going to happen? Is this a decision the Glazers are going to look at and potentially change their mind on something? So before we get into the ins and outs of the sale, this Adidas deal sort of crept up on us, but they have been with us for a while now. As said, that £750 million deal, now it's turned into a £900 million deal. And they said with 1 or 2 incentives, so you would assume it's potentially touching £1 billion, which is it's a lot of money.
It is a lot of money, but it's the right call. Manchester United is a very attractive football brand, and not even football brand. They're a very attractive brand. When you talk about like Gucci or Louis Vuitton, all the major brands that you think of, Apple, Samsung, Manchester United's right up there. You know, it's a globally recognized logo, and that's part of the criticisms, or I suppose like football fans have said, put the football club back in the badge. I mean, the same, like I've never been a big advocate for that argument. I'm all for the football club being as financially viable as it can be. And you can't be financially viable or marketable if you've got football club sat on the badge. So, I mean, it's fine. I mean, Barcelona, Real Madrid are fan-owned football clubs. And as you can see from their badges, they don't have a football club reference on their badges. So, like, you know what I mean? It's not a big deal.
That's just, I think that's just the traditionalist in me. Like, I don't think someone's not going to buy it because they have football club on it.
I don't think it's as marketable with football club on it. And I suppose that's the reason why. Well, it is the reason why it's no longer on the badge, to be honest. It is. Ultimately, if you're trying to put something on a noodle packet, or you're trying to put the logo as part of being a sponsor for a pillow, well, then having Manchester United Football Club in the badge isn't as attractive. Now, obviously, as football fans, we want football club on there. But I understand for the reasons it's not. On the £900 million deal, look, obviously, a great deal of business for Manchester United. Is that the way why the Glazers aren't selling? No, but what it does do is it absolutely does increase the value of the football club. In saying that, the offers that have come in, now we're suggesting they're around the £5 billion mark. I mean, it seems both offers have fallen short of the $6 billion that they wanted. But let's assume it's $5 billion. It's still well in excess of what Manchester United Football Club is worth, to be honest. So who knows? Maybe they've used it as a bargaining chip to ask for more money. I don't know. But look, both bids are overpriced. So I don't know.
Just in regards to we're talking about that 900 million. Al makes a point here as well. But in regards to when, I don't know, celebrating's not the word, but we're sort of talking about sort of how financially sort of attractive Manchester United is. That's why Adidas is back at the table. But we as fans, in regards to our responsibility, now here we are. Sort of, I have MUTV. I've been to games, sort of thing, or a member. So our money does go into the pockets of the Glazers, sort of thing, Glazer pub or whatever. Same as any other person who watches matches on Sky or is a season ticket holder. I'm never going to criticise anyone at all for putting money into the club because I do. So I'm not going to criticise anyone. I shouldn't criticise them, definitely not. But in regards to should we have done better as a fan base, as a collective, in regards to the millions of us, in regards to not making it as appealing to Adidas to come back to the table. Because over the last 10 years, when we've all been screaming Glazers out and sort of watching the demise of our football club, what have we been doing? We've been going to buy the shirts. We've been packing out the stadium. We've maintained it to be this sort of very attractive product for sponsors. So Adidas have come back to the table. We've sent Glazers out, but really financially, we've been anything but that. So has this, okay, it's good for the club. Here's 900 million in cash in the bank accounts over the next 10 years. But ultimately, if us fans, I'd say, again, I'd be critical because I'm one of them, but did a little bit better, Adidas wouldn't be at the table with 900 million.
Yeah. Look, I think football fans can get quite emotional at times. I compare it to a time when you're having an argument with your wife about who gets the last block of chocolate. Oh, sorry, who gets the last row of chocolate in the block. I mean, I know that's a really funny example, Tom, but you should get my point.
It's not an argument in my house; it's mine.
Good on you, mate. But my point is that when we get highly emotive based on certain situations that happen. That there's something that happens that causes our blood to boil over. It's poor transfer window, for example. So I can think back to last season. We were linked with Arnautovic and Rabiot at the time. That caused a lot of outrage. And as a result, we saw a bit of fanfare going behind that. The Super League fiasco, obviously we saw protests and a game cancelled because of that. There is always an action that then causes a reaction. We don't seem to have a constant or a consistency in our behavior. There's always a behavior that then triggers more aggressive behavior or more aggressive protests. And the protests have been constant for 15 years, but they don't happen game in, game out, from minute 1 to minute 90. And that's the level you would need in order to make an effective difference. Now, as we've seen for the last 18 years, and that's a key point, let's not have recency bias. And I know it's easy to, but even at the times when we had the 2010 protests, the last major protests before that were in 2005. So there was like a good 5-year lull of major protesting, for example. So if you're a sponsor of Manchester United, the revenue keeps going up, the sponsorship keeps coming in. Old Trafford is sold out more or less every single football match, no matter what. So, I mean, yeah, we don't like the Glazers, but no one's really willing to go to the nth degree to get them out. And that's not a criticism, by the way. Football is my fix. I love watching football. You can't tell me. You know what would really hit them? Don't watch a Manchester United game. Imagine the broadcasters. Oh, my gosh, Manchester United ratings only 100,000 people watch this week. That's not going to happen. You and I tune in. We're here talking about Manchester United. If anything, we are advocates for watching a Manchester United game. We are putting eyeballs on the Glazers football team. So, I mean, how long's a piece of string?
There's a point here from Al, and just in regards to the culture, different cultures, the way we sort of support our club compared to others. Al brings up here, United fans need to step up the protest for force the Glazers out. English fans are too polite compared to the French and Spanish people. I just want to talk about, in regards to fans, obviously, Italians or the French in terms of the ultra mentality, in regards to fans sort of rock up to the training ground and sort of have a direct influence on players and managers and directors sort of thing. And that's the way they support their club. I'm not saying that's right or wrong, but Manchester United, in terms of its core, you look back over the years in terms of the 50s, the 60s, 70s, etc., there is a culture, there is a feeling around Manchester United fans in the way to support. Now, we obviously criticise players, no doubt, but it's a very more supportive. And I'm saying the Ultras sort of style isn't supportive. Obviously, it's 100% support.
It's extreme.
But there's more direct conflict sort of thing where Manchester United fans, it's 90 minutes, we support the team on the pitch. Everything else we do behind, we have opinions, but we support the team 100% on the pitch. That's why we support Manchester United. If you don't like that, you probably would have gravitated to another club. A huge part of why we have such a fan base and sort of quite a fan base on the same page for large parts is because we all value the same thing. Liverpool fans value different things. That's why they support Liverpool. And I just think that's what gravitates people towards clubs. So I just think in regards to our culture as sort of whether it be English fans or Manchester United fans, it's different to the Europeans in terms of sort of taking matters into their own hands.
Yeah. Hey, Andrew. Good day, mate. Hope you're well.
It's not in our nature to go and do what those fans do.
I know we've got a lot of European viewers. I obviously have a Middle Eastern background, so there's a level of relatability here. So I don't want this to be taken as like a racial attack or anything like that. But Europeans, Middle Easterners, we're all very passionate. I think, Tom, you've got a partner who's European background. Very passionate people. And sometimes that translates into the way that they support a football team. I would argue that the reason you don't see that extreme level of behavior in England is because the majority of your Manchester demographic is actually Caucasian. And I think it's a cultural thing. I think English people in general aren't extreme in that way.
I think just the way it's displayed. I think the passion is the same. I can tell you a Spanish fan doesn't love their club more than I love Manchester United.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
It's displayed differently.
Yeah, exactly. Just European people, Middle Eastern people. I don't want to use the term "wog." It's lazy and anyway, Europeans and Middle Eastern people they're very public with their emotion, I suppose, very expressive with their emotion. Don't fear conflict, perhaps because they were more directly involved in wars or growing up in war, perhaps. I think there's a cultural element to the reason that those people are the way they are. But my point is that I'm not an advocate for ultra mentality. I'm really not. I find it. I saw footage. There was a team in Italy, and it's happened quite a lot over the last few years. I'm trying to think of which football team it was. Was it Inter? I don't know. It wasn't Inter. Anyway, it will come to me. I find it really extreme. I'm not a fan. Look, at the end of the day, the players are not the reason the Glazers are in charge. And we always have to be sensible in the way that we think and analyze and assess certain situations. If you think Lisandro Martinez is keeping Joel and Avram Glazer and wiping their ass as they walk in Old Trafford, like seriously, like get a grip. You know what I mean? Eric Ten Hag, to me, in his public comments about the ownership situation, has been scathing of the Glazers. He's been scathing as much as a current employee can be in terms of demanding success, saying you have to be in the transfer market to compete. He says everything that us as fans agree with. So I think we just need to be very careful about where our anger is directed to. The mentality is right. And what Manchester United fans did in terms of the protest to stop the Liverpool game, now that's the approach to take. It's not breaking glass and trespassing and so forth, but that took the attention away from, instead of the focus being on the crime being committed, actually most of the attention was, this is a protest against the Glazers. And that's the tactics that you need to take. The players have nothing to do with it. And I imagine behind closed doors, most of the players would probably want the Glazers out.
Yeah, no doubt at all. Just one or two things more on the Glazers before we do move on to sort of more football-related discussion. But Andrew, good to see you, mate. What time's it? It's lunchtime there. It's 10 to 9 at night here, Wednesday night. But good of you to join us, no doubt. But Larry, the last thing before we move on from the Glazers, and this discussion, unfortunately, is going to sort of trickle on, and we're going to be having this discussion far down the road in the future. Now, I look at the end game in regards to the financial situation around the club, the Glazers, them personally, and what needs to be done at Manchester United, mainly around the stadium. I think that's the real sticking point with the Glazers. They can't address the stadium issue, and that is why they're now in this position of selling/finding investment. I think if we had a new stadium, they would continue on and carry on just doing what they're doing. But the stadium definitely, just from a business point of view, needs doing. So I do think eventually they will, in regards to the situation, give up power, whether they 100% or Sir Jim Ratcliffe 70%, whatever that is. It seems so long ago, those percentages. I forget what Sir Jim Ratcliffe was bidden for. But ultimately, I do think it gets done in some way, shape or form. However, I've always been and we've sort of disagreed a little bit on this, I've always been pretty, and again, a lot of maybe just the pessimist in me trying to be proven wrong, trying to sort of jinx it a little bit. But I've always deep down really thought, I don't see this happening soon. I've always said potentially Christmas, turn of the year, even into next year. And I've always said, no, look, it has to be done, of course. If Qatar got the money, it'll get done. It's a new season. We thought this was going to be done before the transfer window. Then, okay, the transfer window, last Christmas, we thought it was going to be done before this transfer window. Suddenly, the transfer window is pretty much over in regards to the work has been done. No matter what we get done the last couple of days, the proper work of the transfer window is over now. And new season, new owners.
Yeah, I understand. The Adidas still makes me wonder, what has this negotiation been going on behind closed doors? And if you are the Glazers, I mean, you'd have to think that they would. I don't know. It's really difficult to know how much they're disclosing when they're signing those NDAs. Does the Adidas deal come in a question? Is there a case of, well, we're negotiating with Adidas to get this deal. We then assess that the football club will actually be worth X amount if that happens. Therefore, if that deal happens, maybe we'll renegotiate a new price. Maybe that's an example of something that might happen, right? Because a deal like that increases United's value, undoubtedly. Like it simply does. It's 150 million pounds extra in the door over the 10-year period. And when you're talking about amortization, that definitely makes sense. Look, it is frustrating. I'm starting to lean towards your side of thinking. I started to think that, will one of these owners walk away from the deal? But then actually, there's only one Manchester United Football Club. And Manchester United Football Club doesn't come up for sale often. So as frustrated as the potential bidders may be, I think they do have to play the long game here. If the Glazers themselves haven't said, well, actually, deals are off, well, then there's still a negotiation to be had. And whenever there's a conversation to be had, I think both Sir Jim Ratcliffe and Sheikh Jassim's party will remain in the conversation.
Yes, look, I don't know what the end game is in regards to, I say end game, but over the short-term period in regards to getting this over the line. I'm not sure. Now, I just see my internet. I'm not sure what is happening in my suburb in terms of my internet. One or two people having problems. But if I do get a bit choppy, Larry, do kick me out and continue on. But football, I'll get straight on to football. First one, Mason Greenwood. The latest in this story. But I don't believe there is any proper news breaking in the next sort of over the last 24 hours, but it did come out maybe 2 or 3 days ago from all the Manchester United correspondents that a decision will be announced before the start of the season. As I said, that's 2 weeks away. Fabrizio Romano has sort of got on the tail of that and said it could be done imminently, so everyone's sort of losing their shit thinking there's going to be an announcement in the next hour. I don't think that's the case. It does, just my opinion, think it is going to be done at the start of the season. Latest hunch. We've had this discussion, so I don't think there's any point going into the sort of pros and cons of it, but it's been done to death. But just in terms of the way this news has come out and sort of the 1 or 2 snippets of information we potentially have had over the last couple of weeks, what's your gut telling you today?
I'm starting to think he's staying, Tom. I'm starting to think he's staying because if he leaves, that's the easy announcement to make. Like if he's leaving, that's the easy announcement to make. It's actually, if he stays, where you've got a lot of recovery to make. So I have no doubt that him staying is definitely being debated. And the reason I say that is because we saw the links with Italian football clubs. We then saw, and this is what we do know, Manchester United have shut down the idea of him being sold. So that seems to be pretty clear. So the more, and the fact that it's been prolonged makes me wonder, are United actually flirting with the idea of him staying? And then I look at Ten Hag's comments over the last few weeks, where he clearly rates the player's ability. I'm starting to think he's going to stay. I don't know
What
if
does
he
an
stays with the
announcement look
football club
like?
this year.
What does an announcement look like? Like,
He'll be
how is it
integrated
worded?
back into the first team because at the moment he's training by himself, right? I imagine the football club's overseeing his training regime, his nutrition, but there would have to be an announcement to say we're going to integrate him back into first team training. I imagine that's what it will be, and then any announcement after that will then be an interview, a state. I think it would, where he would have to. It's honestly, this sounds awful to say, so please forgive me if I'm being a bit insensitive about the whole thing. It's a soap opera. It really is, and if he stays, it's got the potential to be like watching a drama on Netflix.
That's where I think you talk about him needing to do this, the situation where he stays. Potentially, even if he leaves, he probably still is in the same boat. But let's draw a hypothetical where he stays. You've talked about he needs to do an interview, which I think potentially, I side with that. But think no matter what he says in the interview, that's just a disaster waiting to happen in regards to we'll all be able to see through it and almost do more harm than good. But I'm just thinking, how on earth does the club / Greenwood handle a potential interview? Because the camera's going to be put in front of him eventually. Like they can't just embargo him and just sort of say you can't say anything for the next year. Someone's going to have a camera and a microphone. So you would think they will try to get out in front of it. But as I said, if you try to get out in front of it, I think as we all know, unfortunately, people side on different sides of the fence, but my gut tells me I'm pretty sure what happened. I'm just thinking we're going to see through, unless he just completely admits what he's done. I don't know how he approaches the interview.
Well, who knows? And that's why I'm saying it's a soap opera. Legitimately, it's you're watching season 3 of Suits to see if Mike Ross is finally going to jail or not. It's baffling stuff. It really is, and I don't envy the club because I think it is a difficult situation and a delicate situation. But also, like we've discussed time and time again, in Australian sport, in American sport, these instances generally end up with the player remaining at the football club or the sports club, sporting organization, whatever it may be. So United would be setting a precedent by letting him go. So yeah, it's an interesting one. And let's not forget, you know what's not being spoken about, but I think it's definitely something worth thinking about for everyone who's listening and for you, Tom. We heard that there were reports of sponsors being consulted about Mason Greenwood. And then Adidas? They were quick to come out and say they haven't had any discussions about Mason Greenwood. And then 24 hours later, they announced a new deal. Did they almost have to keep face?
No, well, look, like me, that Adidas deal that would have been done probably months ago in terms of the groundwork. 900 million, not parting with 900 million off the back of a Greenwood tweet. Like, I just think in terms of that decision, in my opinion, that they're committing to Manchester United. They're not going to decide in 24 hours, okay, let's put this deal on the table and get it sorted.
No, not at all. But a deal like that, I imagine, would have only been signed off in the last week. I don't think it's something that would have been signed off months ago. So that's the thing. I think that the timing situation is interesting. I don't know. Who knows? But honestly, this is gonna be so interesting, and I hate to say, I'm not finding it entertaining.
If this was happening at another club, you'd not love the incident that has potentially occurred, but you'd love the drama at another club. It's just unfortunate.
It is fascinating. Fascinating. It's fascinating to see how it unfolds. It really is, and it's going to be noisy. But that's the thing, that him leaving would have been the quick, quiet thing to do. And that hasn't happened. So that's why if I was a betting man now, I'm 60-40 he stays. We're still lean up front too. And whatever you think of him, whatever you think of the situation, just purely focusing on the player's ability. Does he solve a problem up front or in the attacking options? We're not firing a lot on the right-hand side. There's some concerns about depth and quality. He might solve a problem, but he might also create a few as well.
That's my issue. I think it's not even a might. I think he will create. Look, I'm sure we'll be doing a Greenwood confirmation video anytime soon. We can discuss it in greater detail. But George, what's the go team viewer? Yeah, came out probably 6-8 months ago. Feels like that in regards to their sort of looking to sort of get out of their deal. So I'm not sure. Obviously, they're on the kit this season. I'm not sure what's going to happen with that. Maybe the new ownership. I think everyone's drawn their conclusions. If Qatar come in, they'll get rid of it and put Qatar Airways. Who knows? But before we move on to the one more football topic, Larry, if you do need to head off, let us know. But Al here saying, will the Greenwood protest and the Glazer up protest all merge into one? Last bit on Greenwood, just if there is a official announcement and it's not like a smooth announcement in terms of we see through an interview or something. Fans' reaction first day of the season against Wolves. I don't think Greenwood would be involved in the first game of the season against Wolves if he was there. No. In regards to simply fitness and the way Eric Ten Hag does things. But we'll all have opinions on Twitter, and some voices will be louder than others. But at Old Trafford, just again, who knows? We'll have to predict. But just your hunch on a reaction towards Mason Greenwood.
I don't think he'll get booed. I think there might be pockets. But I don't. Overall, it won't be like. I think it won't be like Di Maria at Old Trafford returning. Yeah,
I think there'll be big pockets.
I don't think so. You also have to remember what the mentality of the everyday fan in Manchester is. So if this was like a pre-season game, like as we've seen, Harry Maguire has been getting booed in the US. We saw Harry Maguire get booed in Australia last year, obviously under very different circumstances. But the match day going fan in Manchester is very anti-booing their own player. So I don't see it happening.
Well, I see that and agree. I just think, unfortunately, with this incident, we'll try and move on, but we make this point every time with the Greenwood situation. It's a very different issue compared to the other incidents.
I understand that. I do. There's nothing I can say that's not going to be viewed as, look, I think I know what he did or didn't do, okay? And I understand people who take the position of his partner's forgiven. Just because his partner's forgiven him doesn't mean I have to. At the end of the day, you don't get a choice. And the way I look at it is, if Eric Ten Hag, who oversees the football club, who clearly is a man who has high values, high respect, demands the absolute most of his players, if the senior leadership group are happy to accept Mason Greenwood back in, then I don't think fans really have a right to say, if those closest to him are willing to share a football pitch with him and train with him and train him, then how can we as outsiders have an overwhelmingly different position? You know what I mean? Like I
take your point, and it's definitely not a case of agreeing or disagreeing. You're right in regards to, at the end of the day, we're talking about putting football club on the badge. It's a football club. It's a football team. In regards to
he's not there being an advocate against domestic violence. He's not there standing on stage solving world hunger. He's there to put balls in the back of the net. And if he's doing that, he's doing his job. And like I said, if the club, if the manager, if the players are happy to share a football pitch with him, then who are we to overwhelmingly boo him and make? I mean, we all sit here. Here's the political correctness of the world. We all sit here and say, don't bully people, don't upset people. Plus size models are okay. If you want to identify as a microwave, no problem. Like we're so politically correct in every other aspect of life, but we want to boo a 21-year-old or a 22-year-old at Old Trafford and make him feel worse about his life. So I mean, if you think what he did was despicable, that's fine.
I take that, but there's 2 or 3 things a man can do which you lose that right.
But Tom, we can't say that. Like, if at the end of the day, like, society picks and chooses when people deserve a second chance. I've seen people, and I've seen the comments, he deserves a second chance, but he doesn't deserve a second chance playing football. Well, he's good at football. It's just the way it is.
Look, I give him a second chance. If he's not in jail, continue on with your career. I just think what is best for Manchester United, soap opera, I think it's a distraction. I don't think it helps the football team. Yeah, he might pop up with a goal here or there, but overall, and look, we're going to have this discussion in far greater detail.
If he scores 10 or 15 goals in 12 months' time, it's all forgotten. I guarantee it.
But I don't think he will. Manchester United, our players can't deal with being booed at Brighton. Brighton fans get on top of Manchester United players. Could you imagine making our Manchester United's visit to every ground now the most hostile atmosphere in the country? will crumble. So I just don't think it helps the football team having that
You
attention.
stop that by playing good football. I know that sounds crazy.
Well, we
but
don't
the
play good
United,
football when we're booed. We crumble.
well, then you got to have thicker skin.
Yeah,
To be honest,
I think. Yeah, look, it's a
you score
debate
a
for
goal,
another
you
day.
shut crowds up. Like honestly, like it's basic fundamental. Like, I take your point absolutely, and crowds will be on him, and they'll give him dogs abuse absolutely. But the second United score the first goal, guess what happens? It all quietens back down. And it'll be that way. It'll always be that way. Football fans are emotional. No one can be angry. It's like when you run out onto the football pitch when you're playing. The adrenaline's pumping for the first 5 minutes. Aggressive tackles, you go hard, you're shoulder to shoulder. You're not doing that at minute 60. The intensity's come out. The adrenaline's come out. Now it's back to, okay, I'm back to my muscle memory. What do I do in certain positions of the football pitch? Oh, yeah, we did that in training. That's what you're thinking about. Football fans are the same. You can only be G'd up for so long. Once that whistle goes at the opening game, yep, the roar, you let it all out. And then after that, it all calms down again.
Definitely. Now, just one more bit on Jonny Evans we want to touch on before we do wrap up. But Chris makes a point here. So I don't know if it's tongue or cheek or not. For Greenwood announcement, and the Glazers announced they're staying masters of deflection. Look, you laugh at that.
You know, maybe it'd be hilarious. They announce he's staying and then they leave.
Who knows what's going to happen there. And Al here saying Anthony is facing similar charges and no one talks about that. Strange that Greenwood got way more publicity. Well,
photos, videos.
It's an interesting situation. Anthony, that case had all the makings of, unfortunately, a false accusation. Anthony has come out and declared his innocence. We had public evidence of what Mason Greenwood did, and Greenwood hasn't declared his innocence. Greenwood was held up in court for God knows how long. So I think Anthony and the Greenwood situation, on the face of it, in terms of the information we have and the public has, are very different.
Anthony wasn't stood down from the football club, though. So I mean, I'm not trying to defend Mason Greenwood, but I think that's a key point. The fact that the club actually stood Mason down made it difficult for him to comment.
Yeah, I understand that. But look, yeah, who knows what's going to happen with Anthony? Fingers crossed it's a false accusation. The main reason that you hope the act hasn't occurred. And Anthony has said it is a lie, and it unfortunately does have all the makings of the time where the charges were laid, or the dates where Anthony was on that date. It absolutely makes no sense. It's all, unfortunately, the hallmarks of someone trying to take advantage of him. But look, it'll all come out with Mason Greenwood, what's happening in the next couple of weeks. Who knows? Just because the Manchester United correspondents have said an announcement's going to be made before the start of the season doesn't mean it's going to happen. I can still see like the Glazers are supposed to be selling Manchester United by now. That's not happening. But almost a parting gift or a bit of a sign of the times, Larry, just to wrap up in regards to the Glazers' ownership. Now, this is a hard one because I love Jonny Evans. I really like Jonny Evans. I'm happy for him to stay. I know that is wrong in regards to Manchester United's future, what we should be aspiring to. We shouldn't be bringing back Jonny Evans. But my God, if something sort of summed the Glazers' time up at Manchester United in regards to selling Jonny Evans for God knows what it was like. I don't know what he sold him for. But in his prime, pretty much, Jonny Evans, what would he have been then? A sort of mid-20s. And then buying him back or signing him back at a 1-year contract at the end of his career. If anything summed up the Glazers, it is this Jonny Evans deal. In saying that, if Harry Maguire is to leave, I fully welcome Jonny Evans as fourth-choice centre-back. The situation is, could Harry Maguire stay and we still sign Jonny Evans, and suddenly we have all this money and all these wages sitting on the bench. So Jonny Evans, 1-year contract. I don't know where it's come from the Belfast newspaper, so people drawing one or two conclusions. Yeah, they must have a contact because he's obviously from Northern Ireland. But you'd have to take a little bit of weight in what they've said. But nothing from the sort of big hitters in regards to journalism. But Jonny Evans, 1-year contract at Manchester United. Talk to me.
I'm not against it. And it's the wrong decision.
Yeah, well, we're wrong, but we admit we're wrong.
But you know what? There's something about a player just being a leader in a dressing room and someone who knows what it's like to win a Premier League title, someone who's been a seasoned pro in the Premier League for the best part of 15 years. I think sometimes just having that, because if you actually look at United's dressing room, it's actually a pretty young dressing room overall, I think is fair to say. And if you look at the way Arsenal fell off last season, surely they would have loved a Jonny Evans in the dressing room. Someone who's been there before, got the experience. Hey, lads, this game's going to be a must-win game. This is like the Southampton game that Arsenal had, for example. We got to win this game. This is really important. Don't worry about the Manchester City game. This is the one we win. We win this game, we lose against City, we still win the title. It's the older heads that keep those younger heads accountable and teach them how to be professionals. It's not always about the 90 minutes on the football pitch. I can think of countless examples over the years. Gary Neville is a brilliant example. He wasn't playing a lot of football towards the back end of his career. In fact, the year United won the Champions League, I think it was Brown at right back because he played a lot of right back. But Gary Neville, who was over the hill at the time, which he said himself, was still a leader in the dressing room. So I think there's something in that. And even United's final season when they won the Premier League title, Rio Ferdinand didn't play every game.
Jonny Evans was our main man at the back.
Yeah, he was. So, I think there is something for just having a seasoned pro and someone who's won a Premier League title in the squad. And if that's what he's there to fulfill and do the occasional game here or there or come on in the 85th minute, no problem.
Could we be falling victim a little bit to sort of cheeky journalism and some tweets out there, and we're here in 1 year contract? Is there a situation, I don't think Al's sort of suggesting this, but surely Jonny Evans can't play for United, he should be an assistant coach. Could we potentially have been taken for a ride a little bit and any sort of contract would be not in a playing capacity?
No.
Or that we have seen him playing. Yeah, we've seen him play.
Yeah, because we've seen him play, I don't think so.
Could be like Tom Huddleston in regards to he's still kicking around in the reserve.
Didn't play for United.
Yeah, but he's playing for United in the reserves. Yeah, no, but Jonny Evans played against Wrexham. Like, again, I'm not suggesting this. I'm just thinking, could there be a situation where we're reading too much into it? If he's to stay, he might not actually stay. I don't think that'd be the case. But
United have a history now of signing players to 1 year deals to actually be part of the coaching staff. Lee Grant is a perfect example of that. Yeah. Is he still at the football club, Lee Grant?
No, he's left.
So, I mean, there you go. Like, it's just one of those examples where, on paper, this is what it is, but actually this is what you're doing. And like I said, it's just a seasoned pro in the dressing room. No issue with it. I think Harry Maguire will leave, by the way. And we've seen, like we said, and I think all of us keep forgetting, Luke Shaw played centre-back time and time again last season. I think there's every opportunity that Luke Shaw is your fourth choice centre-back, if needed. So, United got options there. I'm not too concerned whether Harry Maguire stays or not.
Yeah, look, I love Jonny Evans. I only bring him in if Harry Maguire is to leave. And I do think Harry Maguire does leave. By the way. Oh, yeah, no, definitely. And look, regardless of his, and you're right in all his traits and abilities as a leader, as an experienced Manchester United player, it might be he's a very good defender. I think if he comes in, look, I don't want him playing away against Erling Haaland at the Etihad, but if we need someone in the Carling Cup and need to give Rafael Varane a rest, throw Jonny Evans in there. I definitely have no issue there. But someone we need up front to wrap up, Larry. Last point, Rasmus Hojlund does look like he is in Manchester. Did see the photo of that famous van who always drives down that road to Carrington. That he is there. I'm sure he's done parts of his medical and media duties, etc. So here we are recording. It'll be very, very likely that he'll be announced 10 seconds after we end the stream. But just your latest on the Rasmus Hojlund deal is going to get done in the next 24, 48 hours. Wolves, does Rasmus Hojlund play? / will he, should he?
I think he will play. I think he'll be on the bench.
That right or wrong? What would you be doing in regards to what you've seen but what you've seen from up front this season, like Jadon Sancho, who do you start up front then?
You've got to protect the 20-year-old man. It's a long season. The last thing you need to be doing is telling a 20-year-old, "Hey, mate, go out there and start for Manchester United."
Is there not any better sort of introduction? Just with all the adrenaline, all the excitement, just go get an hour under your belt, score. It's not.
He'll be pumped, mate. He'll be
not
pumped.
away at Newcastle or something.
No, I like the idea of him coming off the bench because if he doesn't score, that's all people will talk about. Just bring him off the bench. There's no pressure. Hopefully, we're ahead. We'll be all right, And I'm not sure. Let's see if Martial plays these next two games because maybe that answers its own question. Martial seems to be in full training. I've seen that come out over the last few days. So if Martial gets some game time over the next 2 days, I think he might actually start against Wolves. Otherwise,
when is the next game? When are these two games? When do they fall?
This weekend.
This weekend? Okay, the weekend. Okay, yeah. Actually, Community Shield this weekend. Obviously, Arsenal and Manchester City. And the Premier League will creep around. There's a little bit breaking around Amrabat, no sort of concrete news, but just in regards to some of the big accounts and Fabrizio Romano, etc., talking about obviously his interest in joining Manchester United. There hasn't been too much from Manchester United side of things in regards to their interest of him. No, I'm not saying there's no interest, but it does seem very Amrabat-centric at the or forced at the moment, so I'll be interested in what happens there. Do you think Amrabat comes in still?
I think so. I think Fred will need to get sold first, but yeah, I could see it happening.
You're starting to not worry, but we're worrying about too many things in regards to Manchester United. In regards to outgoings, Fred, Harry Maguire, Donny van der Beek, maybe one or two others in terms of personal preference. They're still at the club. They haven't found their new club yet, and I'm just thinking we're 2 weeks away from the season.
There's time. It's okay. I think United, you'd have your lead negotiator in all these situations, and I think United clearly focused on getting their business done first. Now they're focused on getting the players out.
Yeah, no doubt here. Al saying they paid a lot of money for him, so he'll be jumping out of his skin to say, "Yeah,
He'll want to start, but I don't think he will. And I don't think it's the right decision to start him.
Yeah, you latest. It looks hard. Look, when he's holding up the shirt and the scarf, when our emotion gets involved, we might have a different opinion. Chris McTominay, I think McTominay stays. And look, I'm in a very small minority. I think it's the right decision to keep McTominay. I think if we are letting Fred go, I think you got to keep one of them. I think it was seeing what Liverpool are doing. Now, Liverpool's midfield might be greatly improved this year, but the wholesale changes, I think you do need to keep some type of core. Not so much a core in regards to your starting 11 and ability, but just what we talked about before in regards to culture. Just keeping a little bit of Manchester United. We're getting rid of so much of Manchester United at the moment. I just think just throwing them out for the sake of it, I think you definitely can keep him around for another season. You could make a business decision and say, will he cost as much next season for a transfer fee? Maybe not. But yeah, it's a hard one. I do think Scott McTominay stays. Eric Bailly still walking in the dressing room. He goes. He can't stay. Well, actually, I think he has alluded to he has at his last day at Manchester United. But last one, Larry, shirt number for Hojlund. Because there just is a situation now. I think because he's young, he just takes a free number, whether that be Fred leaves at 17 or he takes 15 or something. I think he just takes a spare number. But just in regards to tie in, it's happened to Anthony Martial before. I'm not saying that's going to be the case, but it has happened to him before, losing the number 9 shirt. We have a number 11 who might not be part of the first team. He might be. I'm just thinking, could there be a situation where Hojlund is given quite an important number?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I'm not really bothered. The most important number this season will be the amount of goals he scores. Look, at the end of the day, a number becomes important depending on the player who wears it. And if he's wearing number 42 and he scores 20 goals and leads United to their 21st Premier League title, then that number becomes famous. It's the player that makes the number, not the other way around.
Yeah, no, very good way of looking at it. And nicely wraps up the show. So, any other talking points or anything news-wise we have missed? We didn't really talk about the protests, but obviously that comes into the Glazers discussion, which I'm sure we'll focus on in more detail over the coming days. I think the 1958 group on Twitter have a Twitter space. I think it's first thing in the morning, so it's not for us here in Sydney to sort of wake up and tune into, but it'll be interesting to see what comes of that. The latest on the transfers. Chris here saying Brendan Williams to Leeds. That's interesting in regards to... I'd be disappointed in Brendan Williams. I don't think he'd do that. Now, it does look like that's the link at the moment.
It's a football career. It's short. You got to go wherever you're wanted, and whoever...
But just off the back, I would have seen it 6 weeks ago, but after the treble and he sort of backed Manchester United, I just thought, off the back of that, I thought it would be an interesting move.
I'm not bothered, man. I'm really
not. I'm not too bothered. That has caught me off guard a little bit. I didn't see that one coming.
Good luck to him. If they're offering him good money, good luck to him.
Yeah, I don't think that would look. I'll unfollow him on Instagram and unfollow him on Twitter, but I won't lose too much sleep over him going to Leeds. But definitely not like some of the other moves that have happened in the past. But it is a case for him. Good luck to him. I mentioned it on the podcast the other day. He's had quite a, you'd say, decent preseason, considering maybe the expectation what we had for him in regards to minutes and performances.
He's solid. He's a solid player. Like, you don't play in the Premier League unless you're a solid player. He is a solid player, but he's not gonna. He's not brilliant at anything.
I just think it's interesting. He's kind of found himself a little bit more towards a first team setup than Alvaro Fernandez, a little bit.
Yeah, that's true. But maybe that happened. I guess Brendan Williams is your more sellable asset at this point. So
yeah.
would want to play him more.
Yeah, no doubt. And to wrap up, Larry and I were discussing we might sort of do one or two things around the Women's World Cup in regards to now we're just reaching the knockout stages. How are the Australian women going in the World Cup? They did get through to the round of 16, which is by the skin of their teeth. Actually, they did comfortably win their last game, but they did lose to Nigeria in their second game, but Australia are through to the round of 16. The Manchester United girls from England are through. Actually, one of them had a start the other day and played really well. Kati Zellum and Vilde Risa from Norway. Norway got through in the World Cup as well. So Manchester United is still well represented at the World Cup. Two Canadian girls, unfortunately, have gone home. But I think there is one question coming from Chris. Not sure. So we'll leave it. Fantasy Premier League, Larry. I just have done my team in regards. We don't have a league set up. We might do that. So, Chris, I'm sure that is the question in regards to Fantasy Premier League. I have picked my team, Larry. Can I give you away my strikers, or is that illegal? Can we discuss teams before match day one?
No. We can discuss. I think the week of we can. I think it's a bit premature.
I'm just looking at my team here. I don't see how I don't win.
Save it for next week, Tom.
I don't see how this team doesn't win. We'll say Christine, Haaland and Kane. You don't have to be a bloody genius, mate, to include those two. I'll give those away for free. But look, it has been a pleasure. Make sure you do leave a like on your way out. We do appreciate everyone joining us and sharing your opinions. Subscribe if you're new, no doubt. And as I said, make sure the notification bell is hit. So Greenwood, Hojlund, Glazers, there'll be something breaking, and we'll definitely go live if need be. But until then, have a good one, and we'll chat to you soon. Cheers, Larry.
Cheers, mate.